right. It's a bit too loud here, isn't it not? Let me see. This probably should be better. Desktop audio. Microphone seems to be about right. Hello, hello, hello. Alright, so let's start playing Gabriel Knight 1. What is Gabriel Knight 1, you might ask? Well, Gabriel Knight 1, or Gabriel Knight, The Sins of the Fathers, or I shouldn't say it's not there, is a point-and-click adventure game made by Sierra, or I think they were called Sierra Online at the time. It came out in 1993. It is probably one of my favorite series of video games of all time. There's 3 games, and yeah, I'm gonna just start playing through them. And yeah, hopefully you join me to the right. If you played it in the past or did not, I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. Let's just start with the intro here. So this game was actually remade, I think about like 2 years ago. Oh, maybe more. I think it was more than 2 years ago. Maybe like, I think it was 25th year anniversary. So it should have been. Well, it came out in 1993, and 25 would be like 2018. So yeah, about 2 years ago, I think. Alright, so this game is directed, written, and basically created by Jane Jensen, who is also an author of pretty great books. She is the mummy of this great franchise. The daddy would be her husband, Robert Holmes, who writes the music, the composer. Here it is, coming right up in the credits. So yeah, this series is quite extraordinary. If you never heard about it, it's a quite dark adventure game. It's not meant for kids per se. It has a lot of like adult themes, you know, murder, sex, intrigue, drug use. So it's not for children, and it deals with a very interesting combination of real life history and locales with you know, the supernatural. And this first game is setting the tone, and it's not leaving this formula. So it's also combining, you know, a bunch of history and real life stuff and real life locations and time periods, and it combines them really nicely with supernatural. And as you can see, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, or the Joker himself, is one of the voice actors in this game. There's a bunch of like big shots or Hollywood actors in here. The lead character, Gabriel Knight, is voiced by Tim Curry, whom I'm sure you've heard of as well. So yeah, it's been, even though it's like a very old game, adventure games used to be a big deal in the past. So it wasn't unheard of to have people like Tim Curry or Mike Hamill, you know, voice act in video games. Like, I guess it's the equivalent of seeing Norman Reedus in Kojima's games these days, or like Mads Mikkelsen, right? So back in the day, it was you know, Mr. Hamill or Tim Curry in this game, which is pretty epic in my opinion. So yeah, they remade this game not too long ago, and while they did kind of like retouch the graphics, and it's very pixelated, of course, but I like the art, the original art. It's beautiful in my eyes. The new remake or remaster, whatever you want to call it, the 20th or 25 year edition, doesn't really have the original voice cast. So it doesn't have Hamill. It doesn't have Tim Curry, and it's a shame because they couldn't restore the old voice files they were in such bad shape or bad quality that they couldn't really reuse them anyway. So they had to recast, and while the voices are nice and they do kind of resemble the old cast, it's not there. Let's just start. This is day one. It's set in New Orleans, as you might tell from all these wonderful pixels, beginning with day one. A drum of blood upon the shore of eyes that spoke of sin. The lake was smooth and deep and black, as was her scented skin. Quite interesting. Maybe I should speed up the text a bit. I'll figure it out once the game starts. How's the audio, by the way? Can you guys hear the audio of the game and myself? Is it good enough?
Mm-hmm. I bet. Just a minute. It lives, I see. Do you want to speak with Lolita?
Alright, I'll make it a bit louder.
I'm sorry, but Gabriel is allowed.
Gabriel's allowed!
Oh, I mean, he's out. Yeah, if he ever comes back, I'll tell him. You know, you could do better. I know I don't know you, but you could do better. Sure. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I should make the sound a little bit louder. Just a sec. Let's do this a bit louder here. Louder here. Let's see if it's better now.
Good morning. The phone's been ringing off the hook all morning. Let
Better
me know
now?
when you want your messages.
Yeah.
Gee, you're lively. Did you have another nightmare last night?
Sort of.
Mm-hmm. I told you it's that voodoo book you're researching. That stuff can seriously screw up your karma.
I'm sure that's it. Maybe I should write a horror novel on passive resistance instead.
Passive resistance.
So don't sleep. It's your body. Anyway, your handheld tape recorder came today.
Really? Great.
So that's Tim Curry playing our protagonist, Gabriel Knight.
I can't wait to see what human rights you violate with this one.
I can't wait to violate them. For example, if you would just let me...
And I located some local voodoo references for you. Dixieland Drugstore and the Historical Museum of Voodoo. Both are right here in French Quarter.
So if you guys are interested in voodoo and in New Orleans in particular, you're in luck, because that's what basically this game is about. Yeah, like you can tell, it's pretty old. A lot of the jokes here are not really wouldn't really work these days, but yeah, let's just go ahead. Gabriel is kind of like a machoistic charmer in a way, but let's just continue.
How would I ever manage without you?
You? Give me a break. The devil himself couldn't change you.
Well, if the devil had great legs, perhaps.
Here we go.
Like yours.
And a riveting personality, I'm sure. Well, if you need any more research done, just ask. It's not as though we're swamped with customers.
Alright, so we're officially in gameplay. I think audio is still pretty quiet. Let me fix that really quick. Okay. This should be better now. Let's do the music a little bit. And the speed of walking, I gotta make it a little bit quicker, because when he walks, the default speed for his walking is very, very slow. It's kind of like a crawl, really, not really a walk. So it looks kind of silly when it's faster. We might just make it much faster in the future, but for the time being, I think that's fine. So this is a very old-fashioned style of video game, and it's a very pixel hunting type of game. So as you can see, normally, if you are familiar with video games, normally you have, like, with adventure games, you have, like, highlighted places where you can click. So the cool thing about this game is that you can actually click on anything. So absolutely every pixel on this frame or drawing, whatever you want to call it, in this scene is clickable. So you can't really tell, let's say, if you can, like, use the letter or pick up something. It's really up to you to find those hotspots. And while that's cool because you have so much stuff lying around that you can actually look at, so like
St.
the
George
store.
books could use some serious renovation, but Gabriel likes to think that the place has character.
and you get like the comment. The hard part about it is that you like might want to click on something and by mistake click on something entirely different. That's one thing. Another cool feature that they added in this game is, I think it was the first time that they actually added these verbs that you can either click on here. So if you want to walk somewhere, you want to look at, or Gabriel to examine, look at something, ask questions, or just chat with someone, or pick up, you know, the regular stuff. In the past, you had to actually click on them from the bottom, like in the Monkey Island series. Now you can either select them from here or just roll through them with your right click. So that's pretty cool, like improvement for quality of life in video games. What else can I talk about here? You have your
Gabriel is carrying
inventory.
nothing.
Right now, Gabriel is carrying nothing. You might hear the cool New Orleans style narrator that we have in this game. A very, very charming lady giving a voiceover for this entire game. So she speaks more than most characters, even though she's not really a character per se. There's a lot of interesting quirks with that. She sometimes breaks the fourth wall. Sometimes she like addresses the thing that this game is actually a video game and not really like a movie that we're watching, or like she's not really in this universe. She's kind of outside of it, so it's pretty cool. You'll see what I mean. He has a tape recorder where you can like listen to conversations that you've had in the past, and this is quite important because this game doesn't really hold your hand. It's quite the opposite. If you're stuck, you could be stuck for months, man. And this is kind of like a good resource to look into past conversations or clues that you might have. Next is a kind of an odd feature, if you ask me, like the appearance of points. So you actually get a score in this game, and by doing stuff that's needed to progress the story, you actually score points. The interesting thing about it, I guess, to like improve replayability, some actions or conversations are actually missable. So for the completionists out there, you would want to get that full 342 score. I'm not sure if I'll get there. Like the last time I played this game was at least 5 years ago, especially the original one. So you'll have to bear with me. I might just get stuck sometimes. So anyways, let's just start talking, right? Just start walking around, see what we have in here. First of all, first thing you need to know about Gabriel, he really loves his coffee.
Blessed caffeine.
Blessed caffeine, exactly. So let's have him, let's say if we want to have another cup of coffee, you actually need to like pixel hunt that
doesn't
coffee.
seem to be removable.
You see, that doesn't seem to be removable. Maybe that's the desk pixel. Maybe if you try to hit the actual
My
machine.
kidney's already floating, thanks.
My kidneys are already floating. Yeah, some good lines. Let's every day here should basically start with reading the newspaper. I don't know if you can. Let's do the eyes.
Today's newspaper is on the counter.
Yeah, so you see, it's kind of weird. Do you
There
use the
is
paper,
not-
or you just pick it up? I think you need to pick it up. Yeah, here we go.
Times Picayune, dated June 18, 1993.
June. Well,
The front
We're exactly in
page
June.
has an article about the voodoo murders. The article says that the victims are all identified as members of the underworld. The general public of New Orleans is in no danger. Police claim the so-called voodoo
hey, Tree
trappings
Trunks, welcome to the stream.
found at the crime scenes are fake, a scare tactic, and that the murders are not associated with any genuine practitioners.
So,
Gabriel
Alright.
also
Let's let it
scans
play
the
out.
Aquarius horoscope for the day. Potential storms ahead. Proceed with caution and do not get involved with anything new.
ominous
this
words.
time.
Right.
So there are murders happening in New Orleans, and a lot of the crime scenes, which were now are labeled, the murders are labeled as the voodoo murders, have a bunch of like voodoo paraphernalia and stuff. And police claims that it has nothing to do with like genuine voodoo and just a scare tactic and whatnot. So I guess there's no reason really to have this game or investigation, right? So we can like call it a day if there's nothing like genuine there. Why should we even investigate? Or perhaps it's different. Who knows? Probably not. Let's talk to Grace here. So it's interesting how you can approach a character and either have this exclamation mark, and what will happen is it will just chat.
So, what's new, Grace?
Your use of mathematics, for one thing. These books are unbelievable.
What can I say? I refuse to be bound by rules.
It's bound
The
to
strap marks
count.
on your bedpost speak otherwise.
Okay. That's a little bit, you know, TMI. Anyway, so those exclamation chats or exclamation mark chats don't really progress your story or game in any way. Just let you like a little bit more of, you know, a chatter with the characters you want to get to know better. So if you really want to start a proper conversation, what you do is you take the question mark icon and you start talking.
Got a minute, Grace?
What's up?
And you'll be presented with really, really nice... Oh, I think my webcam is kind of blocking Gabriel out of you. And maybe I have to make it a bit smaller next time. But you essentially can ask about any of these blue topics, which will be the same for every character that you can have a conversation with. And the pinkish ones are ones that are specific to a character. And the cool thing is you progress through the story and you talk to different characters, these will start piling up. So you'll have new topics to talk about, obviously, and even for individual topics, they will start populating as well. So let's start with the old, very iconic voodoo question. So it will probably be the most recognizable voice line from this game if you ever played it before is, what can you tell me about voodoo? And that's where normally all your conversations will start with Gabriel Knight 1.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
I didn't know much of anything about it until you started researching it for your book. Now I know that it's active in the city. There's that shop and museum. It can clearly be dangerous in the wrong hands. You should be careful investigating it.
Alright, let me just move myself out of the way. I'll top really quick. I'll just place myself on this other side. Alright, much better. Okay. And now you can see that it's no longer highlighted, so we can like proceed to the next topic, voodoo murders. Let's ask her about those murders that we read about in the papers.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Just what I read in the paper, same as you.
Alright. Basically, the only information that she knows is the same we read in the paper. New Orleans.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans.
Well, I've only been here 2 months, but I love it. It's so much more alive than any place I've been. It feels like anything's possible here.
So Grace is new to New Orleans, as Gabriel says it. It's pretty cool how well Tim Curry, who's is actually from England, can fake this southern accent, so it's pretty nice. Well, he's an actor. That's kind of what they're known for, right? Let's ask Grace about herself.
Tell me about yourself, Grace.
Yeah, right, Knight.
I mean it.
What do you want to know?
And then it like branches out to a bunch of topics. So let's ask, how come we haven't gone out yet?
How come we haven't gone out yet?
I'm still waiting around for that lobotomy.
Oh,
As soon as I get it, I'll let you know.
lobotomy. Can you imagine being shot down as harshly as that? How do you like working at St. George? That's the name of the shop, by the way, the bookstore. So she's working for Gabe. He's the owner of the bookshop.
How do you like
George's
working
Books.
at St. George's Books?
Well, it's not exactly a huge intellectual challenge. Although the math in your record books could confuse Einstein. Still, I love old books, and it's a nice way to pay the bills while I explore the city for a summer. If you ever pay me, that is.
So business is not booming. Yeah, it's like old books, used books. It's kind of a niche market. What do you do after work? Straight on to it, eh, Gabe?
What do you do after work?
Well, I either go to my oil painting class or my Tai Chi. You know that.
You know, you can go overboard with this improving yourself stuff.
Improving.
You don't want to alienate us mere mortals.
I suppose I should just allow my mind and body to atrophy.
Works for me. How old are you?
Old enough to know about men like you.
So you can tell, like, this game is not for kids. Like, even the conversations are pretty good. Well written. And this one is pretty cool as well. It's just kind of like a chat option. Just tell me anything at all.
Just tell me anything at all.
I just got my master's in history and classics. My folks wanted me to go on right away for my PhD, but 18 years of school was enough. I needed a break.
Sounds familiar. I got my master's. I don't want to be in school again. Ever. You heard me. Not going back. That's enough.
Just tell me anything at all.
I came to New Orleans because I'd read so much about it, and I thought, spending a few months here would clear my head.
I really want to go to New Orleans. Oof. It's on my list for sure. Partly because of this game. That's how great it is.
Just tell me anything at all.
I've always wanted to do something really adventurous, Something real life. I'm sick of libraries and lecture halls.
She's sick of libraries and lecture halls, and she gets a job at a bookstore. You think that'll be more adventurous than the usual? We'll see.
Just tell me anything at all.
My folks are traditional Japanese. I don't even remember Japan myself. I was 3 when we came to the States.
Okay. Is there anything else
Just
here?
tell me anything at all.
I've been studying Tai Chi for 10 years. It's a very spiritual discipline. I'm sure discipline of any sort isn't something that would appeal to you, Gabriel.
She's constantly shooting shots at Gabe. New Orleans hosts a Super Bowl in a few years. Go around that time. Man, I don't know. I kind of like going to places or traveling when it's as less crowded as it can be. So I don't really want to go to, say, New Orleans during the Super Bowl or Mardi Gras. I feel like it'll be too touristy in a way, if that makes sense. I want to feel the city a bit more. I want to go to small, jazz clubs and feel it a bit more off season in a way. Also, I'm not really a big fan of football. I'll watch the Super Bowl on TV, but not more than that. I want to travel for the Super Bowl. Let's see if we still have anything new to learn about Grace here.
Just tell me anything at all.
My folks want me to get married to a boy back east,
Mm-hmm.
Mark Kobayashi. His parents are traditional Japanese too. I might eventually, but right now...
So, does she know this guy at all? I might eventually.
Just tell me anything at all.
I just got my master's in history and classics.
Now she's looping back to the same bits of information she already gave us, so we can quit
Nothing, I
on this
guess.
topic.
Never mind.
What else do we have in here? Request research. So you'd notice that Gabe asks Grace to do a bunch of research for him if he needs to. If there's like a history topic, that's kind of like her forte while he's out there in the field. I'm not gonna spoil anything. Like, if you guys are new to this game, and trust me, it's good. If you're joining me for this ride, it's really freaking cool. I'm telling you, I've played a bunch of video games, and this series is by far my favorite series.
Could you do some research for me?
Sure, what?
I can't think
of anything.
Well,
Okay.
Obviously, as we progress a little bit, we'll find more topics to have. Didn't she Didn't she tell me that, like, my friend mostly had,
Gabriel's
like,
carrying nothing.
messages?
Got him.
Did I miss that? Oh, messages. Yeah, I skipped that part. So there's a part about messages.
Do you have messages for me?
Dana called, and Susie left a message about a lawsuit.
A
Copy.
Okie dokie. There's more when you want them.
By the way, how's the audio right now? Can you guys hear properly? Is it good enough? Or is it too quiet? More messages.
Do you have more messages for me?
Your grandmother called.
I keep meaning to get over there. What did she say? Did she sound good?
She sounded great, and we had a nice little chat about you.
Grace.
About you.
Don't worry. I didn't go into detail about your cardinal
Thanks for the
sins.
comments.
Not that anything about you could surprise her. She adores you anyway.
She's my girl.
But she said to remind you to stop by and go through your father's things.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to remember to visit his grandma. Gabriel's kind of like a grandma's boy. You'll see why. She's awesome.
Do you have more messages for me?
Here's a strange one. You got a call from someone named Wolfgang Ritter. He said he was calling from Germany. He told me it was urgent, maybe you should give him a call.
Call Germany. Like hell.
heck.
If it's really important, he'll call back.
Well, fine. Let's just hope he's not with the German lottery for pitiful American authors.
Oh my god. She's so rough. So there's a call. There's something interesting. Somebody called us from Germany, like really wanting to talk to Gabriel. Anything else?
Do you have more messages for me?
Your friend Detective Mosley called.
Here it is.
Talkative, isn't he?
Especially with you. What do you want?
He left an interesting message. He told me to tell you that his mother's maiden name is Humphrey. Oh, that's Humphhrey.
Fascinating.
And that he left some photos for you at the station. At the front desk.
It's about time.
Let's go.
Gabriel, those photos wouldn't have anything to do with the voodoo murders, would they?
Now, why would you say something like that?
Because I know you. You're getting privileged information, aren't you? Did you tell him you'd put him in your new voodoo book?
A writer has certain obligation to his readers.
We got sauces.
Gabriel, you know you'll never put him in your book. Your main character is a female orthodontist. You're gonna be reincarnated as a pit bull if you keep screwing with your karma.
As long as it's a male pit bull with a really big...
That's enough. Thanks.
Oh boy.
Anyway, that's all the messages. Thank God.
Truly. So we got like photos that we need to pick up from our friend Mosley, who's a police detective. Most likely related to the case itself. I think we're good here. Let's see, what else do we have in this place? So it's a pretty cool little bookshop. We have quite a scary, like a skull with a snake coming out from it, a painting on the wall.
3 snakes in a skull.
3 snakes.
Gabriel's father painted it.
Gabriel's
What a
father.
wacky, offbeat kind of guy Daddy was.
So his daddy is the one who drew this, who painted this painting. And what else do we have in here? So you can actually see that like some of the stuff that you can actually interact with is kind of sticks out. It's better quality. I think these are like a magnifying glass and a tweezers.
Mind if I borrow the magnifying glass?
No, Sherlock. Just bring it back when we get the next estate shipment.
No problem.
Next estate shipment. Good tweezers.
I'm gonna take the tweezers for a bit.
Good. You're beginning to look a little scruffy.
Just trying to make you feel at home.
There's a good line in here, if I recall correctly. If you actually are able to like pick something from your inventory and show them to a character. This one is hilarious.
Do you know anything about this?
What, the magnifying glass? It makes things look big. Out to impress a girl, are you?
I hope you're insulting the size of my brain.
That goes without saying.
That goes without saying. That's so good. The delivery is so good on that. Oh man, what else do we have in here? I think there are books in here
That
that you can
shelf
interact
holds
with.
used copies of the Dime Stripe series.
Dime Stripe.
Secrets of unsolved ancient UFO mysteries and such. They just leap out the door.
So like occult stuff and that. It's like the pulp books. Leap out the
Gabriel
door.
can see that just fine without magnification.
Oh, so this is not actually like looking at. So whenever you select something from your inventory, I forgot about this part. If you select something from your
There's
inventory,
nothing written on the magnifying glass.
it will actually be available as part of your verb, and then you can like use your item on something in the area or in the scene.
Saint George.
Can you pick up these books? Let's see.
Gabriel's had all those books in the bathroom and doesn't care to read them again.
Okay, he had them in the bathroom. That's cool. Now let's go in the back room. I think that's where Gabriel, his like humble abode, lies. So, kind of looks cozy. The brick wall. He's also like a novelist himself.
The typewriter is beginning to accumulate cobwebs.
Kind of.
Should I
encountering-
feel guilty? Nah.
He has a writer's block, but he doesn't really care. Gabriel is very like a daisical in that. What else do we have in here that we can use? There's a funny line about the fridge, I think. Where's the fridge? This is the fridge?
A little coal bubbly. And brie cheese is about all Gabriel's fridge ever has in it.
Brie cheese.
Bills from last Christmas gather dust on the door.
Alright, let's open up this fridge.
Gabriel, shut the refrigerator, please. I could smell it from here.
Women.
The medicine cabinet contains a few old prescriptions, personal hygiene stuff, and lots of hair products, including some hair gel.
So another thing you should know about adventure games if you're new to it, especially the old ones, you should actually try and pick up everything, even if it doesn't make sense right now. If you can't pick it up, you'll most definitely use it or find it useful in the future of the game.
I'll take this hair gel. You never know when you'll need a touch-up.
Let's see if he can make his bed.
Gabriel
Probably
might
not.
as well leave that here.
How do we do that? Operate? Will he actually make his bed here? Oh, he's just lying down to chillax.
It's no
a bit.
use. I can't sleep.
Can't sleep. He just woke up. Even though he had like a rough night, right? He said he had like nightmares and
A
stuff.
poster on the wall advertises Mardi Gras, the biggest party of the year in New Orleans.
All right. Yeah, I think we're good here for now. Let's just get out of here. So we need to go to the police station, and we need to go visit his grandma. That's what we have on our plate right now. Oh, and obviously visit the two voodoo reference spots that Grace told us about.
Got some things I
The
need to do.
museum and
See
shop.
ya.
So this is our map. Here in the middle, that's kind of like the French Quarter of New Orleans, and you can actually click here on the big New Orleans map, and if there's a location out of the French Quarter, like his grandma who lives outside of the French Quarter, you actually have to leave this mini map here. So where shall we start? Dixieland Drugstore, Historical Voodoo Museum, St. Louis Cathedral. Well, let's start with the police station. Let's get down to business, right? Oh, the bike. Gabriel on his trustworthy hog. So this is our police station. Let's talk to this guy here.
Got a second, officer?
What can I do you for?
What can you tell me about voodoo?
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Me? Nothing. I'm a Catholic boy.
It's Catholic boy.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
I'm not allowed to give out information on police cases.
It's quite irritable, this guy. I can't blame him. Yeah, the music is great. I love it. There's lots of great themes in this entire series. Yeah, I'll make sure to point out my favorite pieces. Let's ask him about New Orleans.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans.
I'll tell you, I'm glad as hell it's not Mardi Gras. If it weren't for that 1 month a year, being a cop in New Orleans would be a real pleasure. As it is, I'd rather stick behind this desk.
I feel him. Let's ask him about himself.
Tell me about yourself.
Who, me? I'm the Desk Sergeant Frick. Why?
Rick.
Rick?
That's right. You got a problem with that?
Got a problem.
Not at all.
Detective Mosley, that's our friend.
I'm here to see Detective Mosley.
He's out of the crime scene. Sorry.
Alright, so he's at the crime scene. Notice how we got, there was this little chime. Bling, ding, ding, ding. This will be notifying of us about doing well in the game, so we got a new topic to ask him about. Let's ask him about the crime scene.
Where is the crime scene? Is it related to the voodoo
I'm sure he'll
murders?
tell us.
Crime scene information is police confidential. We don't need any more looky-loos than are probably already there.
Looky-loos. Alright, Detective Mosley.
About Detective
Oh, we
Mosley.
already asked.
I told you, he's not here.
Photographs. But we do have photographs he should have left us at the desk.
I was supposed to pick up some photos from Detective Mosley at the front desk.
Is that right? And who are you?
My name is Knight. Gabriel Knight.
Yeah. I got something for you, all right. As soon as you're done talking, I'll give it to you.
Sounds like a threat in a way. All right.
Here's that envelope for you, Gabriel Knight.
Gabriel Knight.
Thanks.
Let's have a looky here. I actually need to, like, I think, open the envelope first.
Gabriel opens the manila envelope and finds 2 photographs.
Alright, we got 2. One of them is fine. It's like just Mosley himself.
The photograph of Mosley was apparently taken upon his graduation from the police academy. He had hair then.
He had hair then. That's pretty funny. And this guy is not doing too well. This is a photo from the crime scene.
One of the photos from Mosley is an official Voodoo Murders crime scene shot. A graphic close-up of a victim.
Yeah. Seems like he has a hole in his chest. A bunch of stuff around him. Okay, that's pretty much it for now. I think we've exhausted what's going on in this little police station for now. Alright, tree trunks. If you're there, you want to pick where we're going right now? You want to visit grandmother or another place? Maybe the historical voodoo museum or the Dixieland drugstore? What would you prefer to go to now? It doesn't really matter. You can basically do them in a lot of order. Let's go to. All right, let's do it. Let's have it your way and go to the historical voodoo museum.
Hi. Look around all you want.
Okay, thanks.
All right, it's pretty creepy out there.
He's got more hair than Mosley.
Oh my goodness, everybody's taking shots at Mosley's hair.
On the table is a small coffin. So small, in fact, that it would only fit an infant.
Charming.
Very charming. So, just want to buy like a souvenir of a child-sized coffin. That will go nicely at like a dining room, right? Let's talk to this lady. I'm not sure if she's like in charge in here. Let's ask her a bunch of questions.
Could I ask you a few questions?
I wouldn't be much help. You should talk to Dr. John, the owner. He'll be back tomorrow.
Noted.
I see. Thank you.
Alright, we'll talk to Dr. John, the owner. There's this drummer outside.
A street drummer has settled outside the museum.
Okay.
An authentic-looking pole marks the center of the room. Authentic what? Gabriel isn't sure.
Authentic what? Gabriel isn't sure. That's a good comment. So she kind of knows what Gabriel is thinking about. And as like I said before, you can basically click here on anything, and if you hit the proper pixel, you shall yield the reward. So there's a snake in here.
A very large, very formidable-looking snake is secured in a plexiglass cage.
Plexiglass cage. Is the music too loud in this game? Sometimes it drowns out the voices of the characters. I find this particular location is quite loud. Let's try it out like this. Let's leave.
The doorway is already open.
Okay, see, I wanted to leave. I tried to open the doorway, so you don't really have to open anything there. Just walk.
I'll be going now, thanks.
So long.
I think we'll visit the drugstore, and then we'll head off to Grand. Seems like a plan.
Hi. Uh-huh.
It's a nice way to greet a customer. Uh-huh.
The proprietor doesn't look especially friendly. His business probably doesn't depend on walk-in.
It's a good conclusion. Maybe. Let's ask him.
Mind if I ask you a few questions?
Ask what you want. I'll answer what I want.
Oh my goodness, that's rude. Let's ask him about voodoo, obviously.
Can you tell me what you know about voodoo?
This is a novelty shop, monsieur.
Novelty, so he doesn't really know anything about it. It just sells the souvenir stuff.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Cabriz Saint-Croix.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Cabri Sanko.
Those killings have nothing to do with my shop, monsieur.
And we got a new thing here. Let's ask him about this little phrase.
What did you mean when you said Cabri sans corps?
I didn't say that.
You did. I heard you say it.
You heard wrong, monsieur. I said no such thing.
So because this is like 1993 in game, Gabriel can't just like pull out his smartphone and go to Google Translate, just type it in and ask what the hell is Cabri Sanko, right? So we're kind of stuck until we find somebody who knows what that means. Let's ask him about New Orleans for now.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
I've lived here all my life, me.
And a little bit about, oh, did he tell us? Can you tell us anything else?
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
I'm a busy man,
Okay.
monsieur.
You can.
I don't get out of my neighborhood much.
I didn't know, but you actually can exhaust, like it can ask multiple times about something and it'll give you more information.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
If you're not from around here, monsieur, you should sign up for some tours.
Actually, good tip, but I think Gabriel is a local.
What can you tell me about
Just
New
wants
Orleans?
his
If
perspective.
you're not from around here,
Yeah, that's the same. Himself. I'm not sure if he tell us anything.
Tell me about yourself.
my name's Willie Walker. I own the place.
He gave us a name, and I think that's it.
Tell me about yourself. How did you get into this kind of business?
Why should I discuss my business with you, man?
That's fair.
Tell me about yourself. How did you...
Why should
Oh, that's the same. All right. Yeah, I think we're done here. Let's go and visit Gran. It's actually a really good scene now to learn a little bit more about Gabriel and his family and his past. Grandmother Knight's house. This place has a really nice music.
Gabriel, I'm so glad you stopped by.
One of my favorite themes in this game.
Sorry it's been a while, Grandma.
Let me bring the volume up a bit. Just a bit.
Not at all. Give us a kiss.
She's so southern. Give us a
Now
kiss.
come and sit down. Tell me how you're doing.
Alright, let's see what we have to...
That's my Gran. Adorable as always.
You're such a tease.
On the wall are portraits of Gran and Gramps when they were young. Gabriel's inherited some good-looking genes.
Nice.
Mostly pictures of Gabriel, his dad, and Harrison Knight. The wood in the bin is southern pine, and is probably fossilized by now.
This is really cool. You can actually like get comments about the type of firewood in here. It really feels like a book. And there's actually a book that was written also by the writer and director of this game, Jane Jensen. So there's a book accompanying the second and the first game in the series. There are 3 games actually, and the first 2 also got like a published legit book that you can read that follows the game really, really closely. So that's pretty awesome. Let's chat a little bit before we ask a bunch of
How
questions.
you been, Gran?
Just fine, dear. I'm sorry I bothered you at work, but I was hoping you'd get a chance to go through your father's things in the attic.
Don't be silly. You can call me anytime.
Alright.
What's new, Gran?
I've been working on baby sweaters for the church bazaar. Keeps me busy.
It's nice.
Done anything interesting lately?
I raised you.
Lately,
Lately.
Gran.
Oh, you know me, Gabriel. I always got my nose poked into something.
It must run in the family.
True. Alright, let's begin the in-depth conversation.
Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
Oh, she is pretty. Voodoo.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Voodoo? What an odd question, Gabriel. Of course, you always were interested in monster movies and all that other weird stuff. You get that from your father and granddad. I don't know anything about it, dear. Of course, it was very big in New Orleans at one time, but you don't hear about it so much these days. Too much else in the world to worry about, I guess.
Oh, you just wait a couple of years. The 90s were simpler times for sure. Well, anything else about voodoo?
What can you tell me about voodoo?
I don't know what else to tell you, dear.
Nothing really. Let's ask about the voodoo murders. I don't want to upset her and remind her of these murders, but let's try. Maybe she knows something.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Oh, Gabriel, nothing. And I don't want to. I sometimes wonder what this world is coming to.
Don't we all, Gran? Don't we all?
What
Anything
do you
else?
know about the voodoo murders?
Probably not.
Oh, Gabriel.
All right. New Orleans.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans is very southern. Of course, though not as much as it used to be when I was a girl. It's gotten much more influenced by the East Coast and that California stuff. Still, it hasn't changed as much as other places, I reckon. We've always been happy here.
California stuff. Corrupting New Orleans.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
My goodness, boy. You've lived here all your life just like me. I can't tell you much that you don't already know.
Herself.
Tell me about yourself.
Me? Oh, surely you have something more interesting to talk about.
Oh, come on, Gran.
All right, dear. What do you want to hear?
What do you do all day?
You know how I love to knit and work in my garden? I also take long walks. It's the only way to keep an old body like mine from stiffening up.
You're not old.
Oh, don't be foolish. I'm older than the hills.
Gotta keep busy, folks. Tell me about before you met Granddad.
Tell me about before you met Granddaddy.
Well, you know I was born Rebecca Wright. My daddy owned a lot of land outside of town.
It's a rich family.
Peas, corn, cotton, all kinds of things. It was a good childhood, but my father was very strict. He didn't much let me out of his sight.
Tell me how you met Granddaddy.
I met Harrison at a church revival. There was a traveling preacher back then, a big fella named Reverend Jim. I even remember his slogan, "Come to me to find your way." Your granddad was sitting right behind me and my girlfriend Alma, and at one point, old Reverend Jim was flinging his hair around with his fire and brimstone annex, and a piece of it, one of those small add-on do's for man, went flying off. I swear, Harrison and I were the only ones that noticed. We both started laughing to beat the band. Everyone looked at us like we were a couple of loonies. It was then I knew that he was for me.
It's a nice story. Yeah. How are you feeling these days?
How you feeling these days?
Fit as a fiddle, and don't you worry your head about it.
Just tell me anything at all.
I had your father when I was 22. The doctors told me I couldn't have any more after him, so I'm afraid I spoiled him rotten.
Just tell me anything at all.
I never loved any man but your grandfather, and I never will.
That's very touching.
Just tell me anything at all.
I hate to admit it, but I was a jealous little thing when your granddad and I were younger. I loved him so ferociously, and he did attract the eyes of the ladies, whether he wanted to or not.
It's that Knight family charm.
Just tell me anything at all.
I get lonely sometimes, but I have lots of girlfriends in the neighborhood. I call one of them if I'm feeling blue.
Just tell me anything at all.
I wish you'd settle down and give me a great-grandchild.
Oh, here we go.
Gran.
Anything else?
Just tell me anything at all.
I had your father when I was 22.
Oh, that's... we already heard that.
Oh, nothing, never mind.
Let's
All right, dear.
ask her a bit about the family, about the other side.
Tell me about our family.
Who would you like to hear about? Your granddad, your father, or your mother?
Let's start with... I think that's the grandfather, Harrison.
Tell me something about
Yeah.
Granddad.
Your granddad immigrated to America when he was 21. He worked his way through school, met and married me, and we had your father, Philip.
So he immigrated.
Tell me something about Granddad.
Your granddad supported me and your father with bookkeeping. I'll tell you what, though, he hated every minute of it. Didn't really like bookkeeping one bit. Maybe that was why he had the worst luck with jobs. And nights he'd come home afraid to tell me he'd lost another. And I would tell him it didn't matter to me. But he felt ashamed, Gabriel.
Poor fella.
Tell me something about Granddad.
Harrison was only 36 when he died. Your father was 8 years old at the time. Your granddad was hit by a streetcar in the business district.
Man, that's a shame.
Took me nearly a year to believe he was really gone.
I'm sorry, Gran.
I know you are, dear.
Now you understand, like, her not loving anyone after his granddad kind of has a much bigger meaning than you thought, and died when he was 36. That's super young.
Tell me something about Granddad.
Did you know that your granddad was a poet? He was! He wrote the most beautiful poetry for me when we were courting. I always thought he should have done something with that gift. But he was such a practical man. Didn't believe in chasing after dreams.
Tell me something about Granddad.
I don't know what else.
Alright, we're done about the grandfather. Let's talk about the father.
Tell me about my father.
Your father was my only child. How we adored him. Philip suffered from terrible nightmares, just like your granddad did. They were 2 peas in a pod.
Is it just me or that dude looks like Conan O'Brien? Welcome to the stream, Predivisarum, if I pronounce that correctly. I think it's the lighting. He's supposedly is very handsome and charming. I kind of feel like that's the light that gives him this weird orange color to the hair. He kind of reminds me of a younger Matthew McConaughey or even like a Patrick Swayze kind of face. But I know what you mean when you say Conan O'Brien. Maybe the jaw and the hair. Yeah. What else can you tell us about Dad?
Tell me about my father.
When Philip met your mother, it was love at first sight. They were married 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
Never looked at a girl seriously until then. And he looked at plenty. You have your father's way with women, Gabriel. And your granddad's. Oh.
It's a bunch of charmers in the family line.
Tell me about my father.
I wanted to just lay down and die when he and your mother were killed in that car crash when you were only 8. It was the thought of taking care of you that kept me going, Gabriel. The police say your father swerved off the road after being frightened by something. Perhaps a deer in the road or a wild cat.
So there's a weird coincidence there where Harrison, the grandfather, died when the father was only 8 years old, and then the father died when he was when Gabriel was 8 years old. I don't know if there's anything like that connects the two cases, but obviously they kind of died really young, so that's sad. The last one I think is the mother, Margaret Templeton Knight. But let's just check if we can learn anything else about the father.
Tell me about my father.
Your granddad wanted Philip to have a normal life. He was obsessed by that thought. He pushed Philip to go to law school. Philip was driven to art. He painted almost in a daze. He would get so inside himself when he worked.
So that's a nice comment to like take note of here, that the grandfather, Harrison, wanted Philip to have, he was obsessed about him having a normal life because of some, reason that we're not privy to as of yet.
Tell me about my father.
He always hated it that it was Margaret's money that supported the 3 of you when his painting couldn't. I kept telling him, try something more cheerful, like a landscape or 2. But he couldn't do it. His work was just too dark and disturbing for the public,
Remember that painting with the skull from the bookshop? That's his father's art. So that's kind of like the vibe his daddy has with the paintings. Yeah, what else about Philip?
Tell me about my father.
I don't know what else to tell you,
All right,
dear.
that's exhausted. Let's ask about the mom.
Tell me about my mother.
Your mother was Margaret Templeton when your father met her. She came from a very wealthy Creole family in New Orleans. She was beautiful and reckless.
Reckless.
She was madly in love with your father, of course, but I also think she liked defying her family.
Of course.
Since you're so interested in family history these days, why don't you go by St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 and visit the family tomb? It would be a sweet gesture.
Maybe I will.
So that little chime we heard, that's because we got a new location that we can visit.
Tell me about my mother.
Else?
Your mother's family refused to give her money after the marriage.
Oh,
All she had left was a modest trust fund from a great aunt, who happened to like Philip. The remainder of your mother's trust fund became yours when she died. That's what you used to open your bookshop.
okay. That makes sense.
Tell me about my mother.
The Templetons are all gone now. Every last one of them. They never wanted anything to do with us, of course. What a waste.
Tell me about my mother.
I don't know what else to tell you, dear.
Lastly, let's give her some compliments. She deserves them.
You know, you get prettier every time I see you.
Oh, you.
Gabriel.
Have you baked any of your incredible molasses pies lately?
No, dear. But you let me know when you want some, and I'll whip up half a dozen.
How about right now?
You've lost weight. Are you courting a new man?
Oh, Gabriel,
Oh,
don't
man.
be silly. You know there'll never be anyone but your granddad for me.
Your hair looks very pretty today, Gran.
Well, why, thank you, dear. So does...
That's a nice line.
you always had such nice, thick hair, Gabriel.
So does your, you always had such a thick hair, Gabriel. She couldn't even, like, bring herself to, compliment him about his hair.
No, I always tell people that my Gran is the prettiest grand old belle in the city.
Oh, dear. You shouldn't talk so.
You know, you get prettier every time I see you.
Oh, you.
I think that's it. Right, so we need to, I think, clear up some things upstairs.
I'm going to go up to the attic, Gran.
She told us
Be
to look
careful of
through
the dust.
some of our dad's stuff, or might have something here to look at. I don't recall. Maybe it's
It
here.
looks pretty heavy.
Oh, there's this clock here, a weird clock.
Gabriel can't operate the clock that way. Nothing happens.
Yeah, so there's a, you can actually move it around, but yeah, you see it's a weird clock where you can rotate not just the hour and the, you know, the arrows, but this outer rim as well. But I think I recall the answer to this puzzle, but without context, it doesn't really make much sense. So we'll get back to this a bit later. Yeah, what do we do now? Now we need to maybe find a way to reach the crime scene, and there's a way to do that.
Well, Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.
It's another puzzle, and we do know that Mosley is right now visiting a crime scene. So it's pretty random. It's one of those weird adventure game puzzles that doesn't really help you out that much. But if we go to Jackson Square, which is actual location located next to this actual cathedral, there will be a police officer in the square next to these guys who next to this band. You can actually walk around the square. You can go hear the Saints Go Marching In, another band that plays the tune here. And another one here. I think that's also the Saints Go Marching In. Yeah. And there's a weird mime in here that does his thing. Look at him. So he follows
Why, you nasty
random people.
thing, you. I'll call the police, I will.
It's kind of like a pesky mime bothering people and walking after them. And let's go back to that police officer. Maybe he knows a little bit something about that crime scene or its location.
A police officer is either off duty or patrolling the park, or both.
Or both.
Could I ask you a few questions?
Not now, buddy. I'm busy.
I should have noticed that. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Right. Oh, there was... Oh, sorry. I think I... If you stand enough around... Let's talk to him again.
Could I ask you a few questions?
You can hear
Not
something.
now, buddy. I'm busy.
I should have noticed that. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
You can hear... Here we go. So you can actually tell that he has a radio on his motorcycle or something like that. It talks about where the homicide team is.
Gabriel likes his own cycle much better. Besides, even Mosley couldn't get him out of that one.
Oh yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. But what you can do
Homicide team attend.
to get that officer away from his motorcycle, and you can like listen more clearly to the radio, is quite a weird puzzle. Let us try it. You need to use that annoying mime you need to make him follow you. And make sure there's nobody else around in here. And as you can see, he just follows everyone around and trying to mimic their walk.
White-faced geek! You want to eat my fist?
You white-faced geek.
Well, I never. Leave me alone, you man.
You man. That's a more modern insult. Alright, let's get him to walk after us. And now, hopefully we don't lose him. No. Because he can, like, get bored with us and follow someone else around. Let's wait until this fella passes by. And we need to kind of, like, bring him down to the general area of this police officer. Yeah, we got it. So he's like...
Hey, cut that out.
imitating him to be a chimp.
I told you to stop that.
It's kind of offensive. And he goes...
All right,
chasing.
mister. You want some of this?
You want some of this, mister? And now we can come to here and operate the radio.
Gabriel picks up the headset and listens.
Ambulance 911, have you located the crime scene? They've radioed for you 3 times.
Damn! Did you say it was north of the Lake Retreat Country Club?
South. Lakeside Drive north of Piedmont Pier, south of the country club.
Man, I don't know if it's the clouds out here today or what. Good thing this guy's already dead.
Everyone's having trouble. Must have been hallucinogens in the coffee this morning.
It's just so misty out here or something. Hey, I see a squad car. Got it, Molly.
Alright,
Thank God. Have a good one, 911.
Interesting.
so now we know.
Stupid mime.
Oh, the police
Hey, you!
officer's back.
Get away from that bike.
Sorry.
Alright, now we can leave and head to the crime scene. So it's outside of the French Quarter. And here we are, crime scene. There's a pretty good scene in here. Quite cinematic. And you'll hear a familiar voice here.
The crime scene team is still at the site. Gabriel parks a bit out of the way and walks over to avoid adding to the general
Great music too.
confusion.
Music is really good. And the art is really good, despite the pixelization and the limits of technology. The
Hey, mostly.
mostly.
Huh? Knight, you wiener. I told you not to call me that.
Feeling jumpy?
Who, me? Don't be stupid. How'd you find me?
Oh, I was just driving
Just
by.
driving by.
Mm-hmm. Well, for the book. But don't tell anyone I let you see this, huh?
It's another one, as you can see. Same MO and no frickin' clues. We're still waiting on an ID for the body.
That's disgusting. Isn't this a rather, public area for this kind of thing?
Yeah, they're frickin' ghosts, these guys. Lakeshore Drive isn't exactly the 10 expressway, but it is open to the public. No reports of nothing. Now, who the hell is that?
We have an in-game cutscene. That iconic
Good day, Miss Getty.
What's going on, officer?
Detective Mosley, ma'am. We've got a little problem here, but nothing for you to be concerned about, Miss Getty.
I see. Thank you, Detective. And good day, gentlemen.
Limo drives
Whoa,
off.
I'm in love.
Yeah, that's Molly again. She's about as far out of your reach as the moon. Probably on her way to meet some guy with a yacht right now.
Near here?
The lake's a popular place for country clubs.
If she's out here a lot, maybe she saw something or heard something.
Maybe.
Man, nobody ever sees or hears nothing. I told you. Besides, you just don't go around bothering people like her.
We've about wrapped it up, sir. It's another clean sweep.
Yeah, let's get the meat wagon moving then.
Do you want to leave an officer here, sir?
Nah, just leave the tape up for a few days.
Yes, sir. If you'll excuse us, sir, we'll take him away.
So the guy who actually voices Detective Mosley is Mark Hamill, or a Luke Skywalker, or a
Stick
Joker.
around and take notes for the book if you want. Watch out for the muck and the water bottles. I'll be back at the station. Stop by if you want to go over the case some more.
Thanks.
Will do. So, police's just drive out, and they can just still peruse around here.
There seems to be a pattern to the lines in the sand. But if there is a pattern, it's smeared. There's only one small area that's clearly defined.
It's just like a part of a pattern, really. We should have a notebook, I believe, to like...
This is the first page of inventory. This is...
No. I think I missed it. It's either at the bookstore or our granddad has that, like in the attic when we need to like jot it down. But there is something else in here somewhere. So off we go, pixel hunting.
Patches of grass have managed to survive life on the banks of Lake Pontchartrain.
Here there's like a lot of blood.
Out down the spot. Will these pristine banks ne'er be cleaned again?
Cleaned again. So there's actually like a spot in here that has a bunch of pixels, weird
The grass
pixels.
has a matted appearance there.
Matted appearance in there, so I can use the magnifying glass to have a closer look.
It's very large grass.
Very large grass. Wait, I don't have anything
Gabriel
here.
is already magnifying the grass.
Gabriel's already magnifying the glass. Wait, so it's not here?
It's very large grass.
What the hell?
The grass has a matted appearance there.
Matted.
Patches of grass have managed to the grass.
Maybe.
There are marks
Oh,
in
here
the
we are.
grass, as though some heavy wire object had been set there.
And there is something there.
Something small and iridescent is barely visible among the indentations. It looks like a scale of some sort.
And to pick it out from the grass, because Gabriel, I think he'll comment that he can't really pick it up with his hand.
The scale looks a little delicate to pick up by hand.
We'll actually utilize our other item that we picked up, the tweezers.
Gabriel carefully uses the tweezers to take the small iridescent scale.
I think it's a snake scale, but it beats the hell out of me what kind.
Right. Yeah, so there's another puzzle that we need to take care of, and it has to do with Gabriel's granddad. So his grandma mentioned how he immigrated from Germany, I believe, and he was a poet. And I think, did we miss that option to talk about?
Gabriel, come in.
Let's see.
Make yourself at home, son.
She should have given us his previous name. I'm pretty sure.
Can we talk?
Did we miss that?
Tell me something.
Your granddad
here
immigrated
it
to
is.
America when he was...
No.
He worked his...
We didn't have
Tell me
that.
something.
Your granddad supported me.
Tell me.
Your Philip suffered from...
No, we didn't have that conversation. Anyways, I don't... It's quite
Well,
vague.
Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.
But you can find a poem in the bookshop that actually was written by Gabriel's granddad, and it's under the name of Heinz Ritter, I think. Let's go back to where's the shop? This is the shop. Maybe another thing that I
Hey,
missed.
Grace. Here I am.
Oh, joy.
Oh, joy. She sounds genuinely happy right there. Let me see something else. That guy that called us from Germany. Do we have his phone here next to the... No, we don't. Is there like a... telephone
Gabriel's
book?
desk has been gathering dust since his last novel.
We can also talk to Grace really quick about the new topics that we have accumulated. I think the Cabri Sankor
Got
is
a minute,
available.
Grace?
What's up?
Oh, and Snakes is now a new one because of the scale that we found.
Do you know anything about snakes?
Doing a family tree, Gabriel?
Very
God.
funny. I mean,
She's
real
ruthless.
snakes. You know, scaly, cold-blooded. I would have thought you'd find them empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
I know very little about reptiles of any kind and prefer to keep it that way. I think there's a book on snakes around here somewhere, though.
Okay, thanks.
There's a book on snakes. That's a good one. Why is this one? Okay. And there's Cabri Sankor.
Do you know what Capri Sankor means?
No. Sounds French, though.
Could
It
you do some
does.
research for me?
Sure. What?
Oh, we do have a new point of research. Check out Malia Gere. That's the sophisticated uptown girl we saw in the limo drive by the crime scene.
Could you see what you can find out about a woman named Malia Getty?
The name Getty sounds familiar. What's your interest in her?
Oh, just, you know, stuff about the voodoo murders. If you could get an address...
They're murders. Right. I'll see what I can find out. Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
That's all.
Well,
Okay.
it's about closing time.
So it is. Good night, Gracie.
Did we finish the day?
Good night, Gabriel.
We did.
And try not to dream, okay?
So she's off. When Grace is like leaving the store, it means like you've completed a day, really. And we'll see her walk out. And we'll get to see if Gabriel dreams again, which he does very, very often. That's Gabe's dream. Day 2. A mask I wore as I approached. I was that what I am not. And though the pattern was unclear, its meaning could be bought.
Good morning. Don't you look swell today?
Actually
swollen.
Oh.
So have some. There's a fresh pot on the table.
Coffee. It's like brains from Gabriel's like coffee.
Seriously, you look like hell. Your hair is sticking straight up like a... Oh, it always does that. Never mind.
Ha ha.
Did you dream about the fire and the hang guy and that lion thing last night?
Leopard, not lion. Did you get anything on Malia Getty?
Well, I did get her address, but you're a little out of your league here, big fella. The Gettys own 3 local hospitals, just to name a few of their assets. They run in very high circles.
Did you get an address?
I got the address. I suppose this has nothing to do with the fact that Malia Getty is incredibly gorgeous.
Nothing at all.
I should have known you wouldn't go for a rich, ugly socialite.
And that address is...
Hey! Far be it from me to postpone your total humiliation. It's 557 West England. That's the Garden District, Estate City.
That's all I wanted to know. And yes, my dear, Malia Getty is the most dangerous-looking diversion I've ever seen. Ouch!
Oy, men.
Oy. Alright, let's start our daily routine by reading the newspaper.
Gabriel Knight. Today's newspaper is on the counter.
What do I have to do? Like, pick it up? Come on.
Times Picayune, dated June 19, 1993. A front-page article describes the most recent of the voodoo murders. Gabriel scans it but learns nothing new. The article reiterates that the voodoo aspect of the crimes is fake. Gabriel shivers. It looked real enough to him. Elsewhere, there's an article about the history of Jackson Square, called La Plaza d'Armas. Under French rule, it was used for executions, firing squads, hanging, even impalement and breaking on the wheel.
Nice! Just gets better.
Of course, these days it's mostly a hangout for tourists, street musicians and local artists.
And
Gabriel
obnoxious
also
minds.
scans the Aquarius horoscope for the day. Chances of a dark star rising on this day. Do not trust your instinct.
I feel a dark star rising, all right.
Alright, let's talk to Grace. We always have to check at the start of the day if we got any new messages while we were struggling to...
Got a minute, Grace?
Get up from bed.
What's up?
Messages.
Do you have messages for me?
Nope. None right now.
Cool. That's good. There was this poem that I needed to find here.
Gabriel's had all those books. Gabriel's had...
Oh, maybe I got it. You actually need to pixel hunt here.
Gabriel selects a volume of German poetry that he always found strangely compelling.
Drei Drachen. Drei Drachen kriechen in meinen Schlaf. Die Ziele wollen sie lebendig zum Fraß. Feurigen Atems, gespaltener Zunge, genießen sie jedes Mal.
That's nice. Kinda creepy, though. Who's the author?
Heinz Ritter. I'm not sure what it says, but I get the feeling the guy was one sick puppy.
So remember that name, Heinz Ritter. And Drei Drachen. Drachen, I think it's dragons. So 3 dragons. And the name Heinz Ritter. And from here, we can use that information.
I'm going out.
See ya.
In a very roundabout way, but you can actually use that to solve the puzzle of that weird clock that we saw in Grandma's attic. Let's see if we can solve it.
Gabriel, my love, how nice to see you.
I think we'll do the first 2 days. That'll be a good start.
Nice to see you too, Gran.
Make yourself at home, son.
I'm not sure, but I think there's like 10 days to this game. Some are longer than others, some are shorter. Let's go upstairs. Do we have anything else to ask her? Something new? Probably.
Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
Let's ask her about snakes.
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? What kind of snakes, dear?
I don't know. Local kinds?
Well, we used to get cottonmouths in the park when I was a girl, but I haven't heard of one being sighted for years. Milk snakes and garter snakes are also around these parts, but they can't hurt you.
Thanks, Gran.
Informative. And the last one was Caprice Encore.
Do you have any idea what Caprice Encore means?
Something without something, I think. My French is so rusty. I swear my mind is going.
It's okay, thanks.
I know what it means, but I don't want to spoil it. It is something without something.
There is nothing to open or close there.
Let's just go upstairs. Gabriel.
I'm going up the attic again.
Enjoy yourself, dear.
Let's operate the clock. Remember the poem, Drei Driechen?
The hands do not appear to have any mechanical function other than to move.
So there's actually like an icon to move stuff. Which one is the dragon? I believe this is the dragon. This should be at the top, I believe.
The face of the clock.
And the arrows need to point at 3 o'clock. That should be 1, 2, and 3. Oh.
The face of the clock.
Come on.
The face.
It works.
You old fox.
Granddaddy, you old fox. PogChamp. So we put in the dragon and the 3. It's quite a tough puzzle, really. Let's pick up the stuff we find there.
Gabriel doesn't want to take the clock.
No, we don't. We'll just exit and see what we found. And there's another thing here.
I think I'll take Daddy's sketchbook with me.
So we found stuff in the granddad's clock, and there's a notebook belonging to the father. That's the notebook. Let's have a look at that first. There's a bunch of patterns. And notice there's like something similar to what we saw in Gabriel's nightmare, that it's a leopard, Grace, not a tiger, and like a bunch of snakes and fire and all that imagery.
Images haunt the pages of Philip Knight's sketchbook, the way they must have haunted his mind. The images touch a deep chord in Gabriel.
Yeah.
So familiar are they that he finds it hard to believe they aren't from his own subconscious.
Yeah, so there's something connected to that. His father seems to have been stricken by the same type of nightmares. And there's a letter that we have found in that clock hidden away, and a photo. Let's read the letter first.
The letter is addressed to Heinz
Ritter.
Whoever that is.
Can we read it? Wait, how do I do that? Is that like this?
The letter is written in German.
In German.
But Gabriel determines what he can about it. It was sent from a place called Schloss Ritter in Rittersberg, West Germany. The letter is addressed to mein Sohn Heinz and signed Wilhelm Ritter. One of the reoccurring words strewn throughout the letter is the word Schattenjäger. The only thing that Gabriel can decipher about the letter There's a sense of urgency in the handwriting and in the heavy use of quill-tip, bold strokes and underlining.
So a very urgently written letter, a bunch of repetitions of the word Schattenjäger, and it was labeled to my Sohn Heinz, so to my son Heinz Ritter, right? And there's another photo that we found.
The old photograph showed Gabriel's grandfather with two other men that Gabriel has not identified.
So he did identify his grandfather and two other men. They are next to a castle. The letter was sent from a place called Schloss Ritter. Schloss in German means castle. So that's the Ritter Castle. Heinz Ritter, Schloss Ritter, Ritter Castle.
This is the last page of inventory.
We'll use that information and ask the grandma if she knows anything about that name, about Heinz Ritter. Or that place. Let's see.
That's it. Take a load off, honey.
Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
So this game is pretty dynamic, you know, and like in the order that you can tackle different puzzles. So we could actually have found and opened the clock yesterday. So that's pretty cool. Like it's kind of different every time you play it. So let's ask her. We got a blue topic. So Schattenjäger is something we can always ask anyone in the game. So that's pretty good to have. Let's ask her about it.
Have you ever heard of a Schattenjäger?
Schattenjäger? Schattenjäger? How odd, Gabriel. I haven't heard that word in years.
So she did hear
Goodness, you've given me a chill. Oh, Granddad used to say that sometimes in his sleep.
Really? Do you know what it means?
No, I'm afraid not. I asked him about it once. I don't think he answered me. Odd.
Thanks, Gran.
The plot thickens. Wait, it's getting pretty dark in my room. Let me just blinds a bit. All right. Let's see. So the grandfather knows. He spoke about this. Even muttered it in his sleep. Kind of creepy. What else do we have? Heinz Ritter.
Do you know anyone named Heinz Ritter?
Heinz Ritter? Oh, Gabriel. Where did you hear that name?
I found a letter in Granddaddy's clock.
I promised I'd never tell you or your father. But I suppose it doesn't matter now.
Tell me, Gran.
Tell me.
Your granddad's name was Heinz Ritter before he came to America. He changed it to Harrison Knight legally when he arrived.
Ritter means knight. Literally means knight in German. So can she tell us anything else about that?
Why did Granddad change his name?
I don't know. I tried to ask him about his family, his life before America, but he didn't want to talk about it. He never even told me about his name change. I found out one day when I saw his passport in a drawer, since he obviously found it painful. I never questioned him about it, but I'm sure it was trouble with the law. Your Granddad was the best man I ever knew.
So there's something about his past that he really tries to escape from, related to kind of his obsession wanting his son to have a normal life.
Didn't Granddad ever say anything about his past or his family?
Only that his family was crazy, and that he never wanted to see them again. He believed in some family curse, thought that he could spare Philip and Philip's children from what he called old nightmares. Whatever Harrison wanted to spare you, though, it cost him plenty. He never did sleep well, and he would often get a far-away, guilty look in his eyes. He was wrestling with something he thought he should be doing, someplace he thought he ought to be. I don't know how he could think that he should be anywhere but with me and our child. It's a terrible way to live.
It's a serious curse. Not only the nightmares, but them dying so young in very similar, occurrences or very similar circumstances might be related to that curse. We don't know.
Do you know anything else about Heinz Ritter?
I've told you all I know about your granddad's past.
Yeah, that's all she knows. Another thing we can do is show her that letter. Maybe she recognizes one of the two other men in the photo. Let's see.
Does this mean anything to you, Gran?
That one in the middle is your grandfather. Those other two, I don't know.
Well, she doesn't. Alright, we got a bunch of new information anyways, so that's cool.
Well, Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.
So we found out about the fact that Harrison Knight, Gabriel's grandfather's name is actually Heinz Ritter, and he escaped his family from Germany. We also have the Getty estate at the ready to visit. Before that, though, I'd like to do something else. Maybe something to ask Grace about.
Hello, beautiful.
Schottenjäger.
It's me.
Really? I forgot you were gone.
These are great. Every time she has like a great line.
Got a minute,
when
Grace?
he walks in.
What's up?
What else? Schottenjäger.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No. Is that a voodoo word?
I don't think so. It's German.
No, but it has a nice ring, doesn't it? Schottenjäger.
Could you do some research for me?
Sure.
Research.
What?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Alright, so we know about Schottenjäger. Now, did we talk to her about snakes? I'm not
Do
sure.
you know anything about snakes?
I told you nothing. I hope you don't think this subject is erotic. It's not.
Come on, Grace. Alright, so nothing new here. We do have that museum that we visited yesterday. I think that the more knowledgeable guy
I'm
that
going
the
out.
See ya.
receptionist told us about, Dr. John should be there now, so we can talk to him about voodoo.
Welcome, my friend.
Here he
Hello.
is.
I am the proprietor, Dr. John. If you have any questions, I will be happy to assist.
Great. My name's Knight, and I'll probably pick you up on that.
Just reduce the volume a little bit here, because that part is just here is very loud. Yeah, the part in the museum. There's a lengthy conversation here on voodoo, so I don't want to mishear.
Could I ask you some questions?
That is why I am here.
The obvious one. Finally, someone can actually teach us something about it. The voodoo.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo? Or the voodoo currently practiced in the city?
What can you tell?
Historic?
So, yeah, it just opened up these two branches here. Let's talk about historical voodoo first.
Tell me about historical voodoo.
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Sounds good.
As you may know, voodoo is a grassroots religion formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade. But African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies, where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, the New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively.
The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importing of slaves from that region.
So they avoided actually importing slaves from a particular region to avoid them bringing in that religion as well. So yeah, it's really awesome how one of the big things I love about this series of games is you actually learn a lot of actual history. Which is pretty cool. You learn a lot about different topics. So each game kind of has its own theme. The first one being about voodoo. I don't want to spoil the other two if you're not familiar with we'll get there. But this one focuses heavily on the history of voodoo in New Orleans. And voodoo in New Orleans, obviously. Let's ask a bit more.
So, how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves. Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans. Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.
What happened when the West Indies slaves got here?
They brought voodoo with them. The native slaves were more than enthusiastic about embracing it. It gave them power, Mr. Knight, if only in the form of a communal bond.
Yeah.
Among the first meeting places were the Bayou Saint John and the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The early voodoos were heavy snake worshippers, worshipping the one they called the Great Zombie.
Interesting. So that's where the word came from, the zombie word. Yeah, you can imagine like a bunch of different slaves from different areas and locations. Once they are in the same location, what gives more power to a society or you know, a collection of peoples from different regions, such as religion or the practice of something native, of something that you can call your own, right?
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
By 1817, the voodoo activities were beginning to cause fear among the white slave owners. An ordinance was passed to forbid slave gatherings except in designated public areas at designated times.
Obviously.
The time was Sunday afternoons and the place, Congo Square. The slaves and free people of color gathered to dance simulations of their voodoo dances right in sight of Creole society. Of course, they also continued to meet in private for the real thing.
The stuff that they try to ban, right?
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
There were a variety of kings and queens at first, voodoo priests and priestesses. But from about 1830, a single power emerged. This was a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau ruled voodoo in New Orleans for many years.
It's interesting that like they have a single leader to a religion, kind of like a pope, I guess. And we got Marie Laveau as a topic that we can ask everybody about, so that's cool.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
I've given you as much detail as I can, Mr. Knight. Look around the museum if you desire more information.
And let's see more about current voodoo.
Tell me about current voodoo.
Many people think of voodoo in terms of magic spells or gree-gree. That kind of practice is actually called hoodoo.
Hoodoo.
And is only a part of true voodoo. Voodoo, the religion, has a strong following in New Orleans. In fact, it is growing quite rapidly. There are several voodoo churches or temples in the city, and others all across the United States. African Americans see it as a tradition all their own. Whites, and there are many in their religion, are attracted to it because they think it is exotic. I, personally, am more interested in the history of voodoo. Some of the new movements are copying Haitian or even African voodoo. But it is the voodoo of New Orleans that I find so intriguing.
Tell me more about current voodoo.
There are many voodooians in New Orleans. They often do business selling gree-gree, telling fortunes, providing luck, and occasionally misfortune. Perhaps you would like to meet a voodooan.
Perfect.
We refer those who seek a deeper experience with voodoo to a local practitioner, Magentia Moonbeam.
Sure, I'd love to meet her.
She lives on the corner of Orleans and Dauphine. I will call her and tell her you might stop by.
Great, thanks.
So we got another location to visit.
Tell me more about
Anything else
current
about current
voodoo.
You have tapped my resources. My expertise is really historical. Perhaps Ms. Moonbeam can be of further help.
Perhaps let's ask him about hoodoo. That's the one that deals with the spells and small things.
Is there anything
that are
else
not
I should
really
know about
as religious.
voodoo?
Not if your interest is primarily in voodoo. Hoodoo is of interest to those who study rural folk traditions, but it will not aid you in understanding true voodoo.
And he has such a great voice. You can just listen to him.
Is there anything else I should know about voodoo?
Not if you're...
Alright, that's the same. Let's ask him about the voodoo murders.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The killings in the newspaper? I know that they have nothing to do with true voodoo in New Orleans.
Anything else?
What makes you think the voodoo murders aren't being done by local practitioners?
Voodoo is a popular boogeyman, Mr. Knight, especially in New Orleans. Anyone can pretend to use it, just as anyone can pretend to be a black belt in karate, and for the same reason, to intimidate. I know voodoo in this city, Mr. Knight, and believe me, it is not about killing. Even the police have stated that the killings have nothing to do with local voodoo.
Is he gonna press more?
So you know nothing about the voodoo murders case?
I neither know nor care to know, Mr. Knight. My only possible interest is in how it might affect the public's attitude towards the museum. So far, it has not been an issue. No one has even had the bad taste to bring it up. Until you, that is.
Oh yeah, we do have a lot of bad taste to bring it up. Let's take it up a notch. Let's show him this photo from the crime scene.
Could you look at this and tell me if you recognize anything about the ritual?
This is truly offensive. This is from one of those recent killings, is it not?
Well, actually...
But the police already know that this so-called voodoo ritual is fake. Voodoo is a respectable religion.
Struck a chord.
This kind of thing has nothing to do with voodoo in this city.
Fine. Let's say that's true. Are you sure there's nothing about the items in this photo?
There is nothing about this sickness that I would identify as voodoo. Nothing.
Thanks for looking then.
I get why he's upset. Like, the guy's practicing a religion and we're bringing him this freaking...
Could I ask you some more questions?
Of course. I also find our dialogue stimulating.
Let's finish up his conversation and I think we'll be done for today. New Orleans.
What do you think of New Orleans?
It is the only city in the United States as far as I am concerned.
That much, eh?
What is it about New Orleans that you so admire?
It has a real culture of its own, Mr. Knight, amid the horrid blandness that is Americana. New Orleans alone has a voice.
I
Spoken
agree with
like
that,
a true
partially.
New Orleanian.
Yeah. Lots of culture, lots of history. Voodoo, you know, the food, the different cultures congregating in this location. Jazz was more in there, and there's a lot to see. What else?
Do you have anything else to say about New Orleans?
I have already given you my opinion, Mr. Knight.
Alright, man, don't be pissed at me. Snakes.
Do you know anything about snakes?
Ah, you have perhaps noticed the museum's
I have.
Mr. Knight. They are beautiful creatures, do you not agree? And the tourists seem to associate them with voodoo.
So are they associated or not?
Is the snake yours? Do you use it in your practice of voodoo?
I admire the spirit of the snake, Mr. Knight, but snakes like the museums can be quite dangerous to handle.
You didn't really answer my question.
I think I did, Mr. Knight.
I'd really like to know more about your snake.
There is really nothing more to say, Mr. Knight.
Alright. Cabri Sanko.
Do you have any idea what Cabri Sanko means?
I fear my French is not all it should be, Mr. Knight.
I feel the same way, actually. Marie Lavant.
You're sure you haven't heard the term Cabri Sanko?
I am sure, Mr. Knight.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
There were actually two Marie Laveaux, mother and daughter. Most people thought they were the same woman. Her continued youth added to the mystique. The original, the mother, was also known as Widow Paris. It was she that began the empire. When the Widow Paris began to practice, there were many Voodooans in the city. By 1830, she was Voodoo Queen of all New Orleans.
Tell me more about Marie Laveaux.
The Widow Paris was a hairdresser for rich Creole ladies. She also paid household servants to spy for her. Between the two, she knew everything about everyone who mattered in New Orleans.
It's a lot of power.
She was not above using her information to appear psychic, to intimidate, or even to blackmail.
You sound as though you admire.
Very brave
for a black woman in the mid-1800s
exactly.
to gain power is an incredible thing, Mr. Knight. However she achieved it.
Damn straight.
Tell me more about Marie Laveaux.
She kept a pet snake, danced with it too. She held traditional voodoo ceremonies out by the lake. She took herself seriously, very seriously. But she was not above selling tickets for her events to curiosity
you gotta
seekers.
eat.
She was not above using voodoo any way she could to make money. That is for certain. But if she had been in another line of work, in another age, that would have been interpreted as entrepreneurial genius rather than a sign of fraudulence.
Hey, you don't need to convince me. I admire anyone that can actually make a living.
Like myself. Gabriel, come on.
Tell me more about Marie Laveaux.
It was Marie Laveaux who defined the voodoo that is truly and uniquely the voodoo of New Orleans. She invented hundreds, if not thousands of spells, potions,
kind of like
charms, and incantations. These formed the basis of the modern practice, not to mention the folk tradition of hoodoo.
Tell me more about Marie Laveaux.
Her daughter, Marie Glapion, took over when the Widow Paris got old. Most people thought it was the same Marie Laveaux. Both Maries encouraged that point of view. The Widow Paris died in 1881. Marie Glapion had been reigning a long time by then. After the death of the Widow Paris, other voodoo queens surfaced, and by 1890, the cult was fragmented again. Marie Glapion just sort of faded away.
Tell me more about Marie Laveaux.
The Laveaux tomb, where one or both of the Maries are believed to be buried, is in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. It is a popular shrine for practitioners and tourists alike. I myself take tours through the cemetery on a regular basis.
Really? Do you have any running this week?
No, but the cemetery is open to the general public as well.
That's cool. What else?
Tell me more about Marie Laveaux.
You have heard everything about Marie Laveaux that a layman might expect to understand.
Okay, don't condescend. The last thing I think is the himself part.
Tell me about yourself.
Me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
What is it you wish to learn?
Why did you open a voodoo museum?
It's a lengthy conversation.
The subject has fascinated me all my life, and I wanted to help preserve the cultural heritage it represents.
What kind of background in voodoo do you have?
Let us say that I cut my teeth on it, Mr. Knight. It is in my blood.
Do you do anything besides run the museum?
No. The museum does not make me a rich man, but my material needs are simple. I prefer to focus on my one true interest in life.
What are your own religious beliefs?
My beliefs are too personal and too complex to discuss with a layman, Mr. Knight.
Okay.
Just tell me anything.
I am originally from the West Indies myself, you know.
Really? What brought you to New Orleans?
I was drawn here for personal reasons.
Just tell me anything.
I am a vegetarian.
Really? I can't imagine living without meat.
That must be the hunter in you, Mr. Knight.
Just tell me anything.
I do not care for small talk,
Alright, I
Mr.
think we've
Knight.
exhausted that option.
Actually,
Last
I can't
thing.
think of a thing.
Then, let us discuss something else.
He probably doesn't know, but I'll ask him about Schottenjäger.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I have not.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really interesting. We learned a lot about, historical voodoo and how it came to New Orleans, about the city a little bit, about Marie Laveau, voodoo and current voodoo, and that's it. Pretty interesting character, Dr. John is. And I think this is a good place to stop. We still have to visit the cemetery, to visit the Knight family tomb and Marie Laveau's tomb, obviously. We need to go and talk to Detective Mosley and see what else pops up in our life as Gabriel Knight. So thank you guys for joining me, and I'll probably do this sometime in the upcoming week. All right, take care now. Bye-bye.